Bitcoin and enhance the Bitcoin network's security. This is not cloud mining. You can select an ASIC and have that sent to a specific facility that has been vetted by the Compass team. Or if you're in the US, you can have that ASIC sent to your home and use the Compass at Home mining guide to get into mining at home. So with Compass, everyone can tap into the economies of scale offered by Compass, and you can access reasonably priced hardware and cheap industrial power rates. So this might not be accessible for everyone in their residential home and residential rates. So if you're unsure about how to get started, go to the website. They've got all kinds of content and material like a newsletter and audio material that can teach you about Bitcoin mining. So that website is compassmining.io. Now onto the show with Nate. Nate, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Stefan. Thanks for inviting me.
So Nate, we've been chatting for a while, and I know you obviously have some expertise and some practice now in running Lightning nodes, and this is something, we've even been chatting in the background about it for a little while, and I thought it would be great to get an episode to get your thoughts on it, and of course I know you're working at Voltage as well, so you can probably share a little bit from that side also. So yeah, do you want to just give a little bit of a background on yourself for the SLP listeners so they know who you are and what's your involvement in this whole Bitcoin and Lightning world?
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Nate. I go by B4Bacon1 on Twitter. And I am a Bitcoiner, been a Bitcoiner for a while. And in the sort of bear market of 2018, I was thinking about running a node for the first time. And near the edge of 2019 there, I came across the Staticus Raspberry Bolt guide on building your own node on a Raspberry Pi. And I decided to dive into that with zero Linux experience whatsoever and managed to figure it out. And I honestly just wanted to run a Bitcoin node at the time, but I saw Lightning as sort of like a bonus. Like, cool, I get to run a Bitcoin node and a Lightning node at the same time. And then after that, I just sort of went deep into Lightning and started learning about channels and liquidity. I spent a lot of time on the LND Slack. Obviously, I was running LND at that time. And eventually, I noticed the community in 2020 and 2021 was really starting to grow out. People are starting to talk about it more. So I got into just helping as many people as I could. At the time, I was still working my sort of normal non-Bitcoin job and raising a family and everything. But, when I could spare time, I was working with the PlebNet guys or running free Calendly consulting to help people answer general questions about running Lightning. And then Voltage hired me last September to sort of spearhead the support and education part of the service, which I've been doing. And it's been great. So I guess that's the general overview there.
Fantastic. And so I think it's probably important for listeners, maybe if you're new or maybe you're not as advanced into this, just to understand the different Lightning users. So let's say as an example, there are some different types and maybe you want to spell out some of your thoughts. I mean, let me just open with a few ideas and you can expand on that. So as an idea, you might be, let's say, just a retail user of Lightning. And so this might be a person who is using different Lightning services like Phoenix, Breeze, Moon, or even Wallet of Satoshi. You're using Lightning services and you're typically just making small payments and receiving. Another user type might be the routing node operator. And so this is a person who's trying to set up and actually set up channels, and these are distinct roles, right? And then another example might be a person who is a merchant. So you are receiving typically payments. And so you might need to set up a Lightning node from that point of view. And then maybe another bucket or category might be like a Lightning service provider. And some of these might be like a routing node, but they are kind of doing a slightly different service themselves, right? And then, so there's kind of this ecosystem of different user types, right? Because maybe if people are looking back to, let's say, 2018 or 2019, it's just kind of like, it was all the one thing, right? Like one person was just doing everything. But now it's almost like we're seeing a distinction in the different role types. So do you want to just expand a little bit on that, just for those people who are new to Lightning? Maybe they're learning about Bitcoin and Lightning.
Yeah, I think that maybe some people, when they're starting to hear about Lightning and nodes, they start thinking about everybody needs to run it the same way or have the same goal. But that's not the case at all. Trying to build out a routing node takes time, energy, and effort, right? But if you are trying to be a Bitcoin sovereign, there's a lot of Lightning wallets out there that are very user-friendly, but you're trusting third parties and whatnot. But if you just want to, buy gift cards on Bitrefill or pay with Moon, and you want to run your own node and you just want to do that is probably the easiest way to go about it, because after you get your node running, you simply open up channels to routing nodes, and we can go over how to choose who to open up channels with later. And essentially you're good to go. You have your outbound capacity, and now you can make payments. Great. And you're all set. Merchants are a little bit different because you're more inbound focused as a merchant, meaning the liquidity that you want needs to be, receivable. So that's called your remote or your inbound capacity. So that's the equivalent of somebody opening up a channel to your node. And that's where a lot of node liquidity services have kind of popped up, such as, you got the marketplaces from Lightning Labs, the Lightning Pool, C Lightning, now known as Core Lightning, has liquidity ads. So essentially, if you're running a routing node and you have excess liquidity, you can basically sell that liquidity to new node runners, or merchants specifically need that. And I think that is a really cool concept that is continuing to hopefully be made easier, and eventually I think will be obfuscated away for merchants that want to run a node. They can simply say, hey, I want liquidity, boom, bam, and they get some. So I'm hoping that's the future. I think it's going that way. And then, of course, is the routing node operator, which is someone that has a lot of capital. And by what I mean a lot, I mean so now we're getting to the part where this is my opinion. A lot, I would say to start a routing node, you probably need, again, this is just my opinion, but I think 5 million SAT channels are probably the sweet spot. And I think around 20 channels are probably pretty good. And not all of those channels have to be channels that you open yourself. It could be channels you receive from others. And that's the most complex. So we can get into that, but that's probably the most complex. A lot of people, though, I think start Lightning nodes out of curiosity, meaning they don't want to do any of that. They just want to learn how it works. And then they maybe transition to that in the future. Maybe they decide, okay, this was like my beginner node. I learned a lot doing it. I'm going to shut it all down. I'm going to make a new one, maybe on better hardware or something, and then take it seriously from there. So I work with a lot of those kind of people also. So yeah, that's a general overview.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that is a great segue into that next question I had, which is around what kinds of Lightning nodes we can run, because obviously we can run a Raspberry Blitz or an Umbrel or a MyNode or various other node packages. And typically people might start out as like a beginner or learning node. They might start out with a Raspberry Pi or one of these single board computer type small computers. And that's been a bit of a discussion in the community. Like my friend Katan is quite against the whole Raspberry Pi. He believes you should run a box. And then there's another camp, which is you can run a VPS, and obviously voltage can help you with that. So do you want to just spell out some of your thoughts comparing those three, right? So the Raspberry Pi, or let's say a Rock Pro 64 versus the second option, which is like running a box at your home, like your own box, or thirdly, running a VPS. If you could just explain a little bit about each of those and your thoughts on those for a Lightning node runner.
Yeah, so Raspberry Pis are obviously very popular, very affordable in a lot of ways, and fairly powerful for what you get with them. And I think running just like a normal Bitcoin node, base layer Bitcoin node on a Raspberry Pi is great because you can turn it off whenever you want, and it's not as intensive.